What's up, it's Oakley, and I'm doing another battle with Indy Pride, myself playing as the followers of Nagash, so obviously mixing some of the units from the Vampire Counts along with the Tomb King. So I really like that combo, gives you a lot more versatility and options. So he's going to be playing as Nagash way over there in the desert, with Helbron over mounted on this Manticore, looking out over. Actually, I'm not quite sure that's Helbron. It could be, no, it looks like it's not. So just a generic Supreme Sorceress of Lore Fire. Fire, a good choice, obviously, as it has a lot of bonuses against the Tomb Kings. So that's a good choice. While we're over here, let's take a look at his build. So he's anticipating a fair amount of constructs on my side and armored units. So in that sense, he's deployed in a nice defensive position. 2 Blackguard of Nagash to defend the rear, 1 in the center with Helbroni Dread Spears with anti-large poison. Defense, charge defense against all. So that's going to be a nice way to button up his force against constructs. And then in the infantry department against potential armored foes, he has these Sisters of Slaughter who even do well against unarmored units. They're really, really strong. You see them a lot in Dark Elf builds, or at least you're going to. So you have 3 of them, very powerful. And then of course Dark Shards with shields, because I have the ability to bring potentially archers. In this case I didn't, but these guys will trade well in those types of scenarios. So nice little defensive maneuvering force. In the back he also has some Doomfire Warlocks. Again, another unit you'll be seeing a lot of just because of the fact that they fulfill a very critical role, allowing you to control the cavalry department in the sense that you have some pretty powerful balance spells, Soul Blight for reduced armor and weapon damage, and then Doom Bolt to start to do some damage against the enemy. And the fact that these have pretty high physical resistance while dealing their own poison and magical attacks going to be really good. Should be a little scared about that in terms of magical attacks against my Hex Wraiths. Could counter me pretty hard, but same thing. These guys with their physical resistance, that will be cut through by my own magical damage. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. Lastly, he does have the Slaneshi version of these, where, oh, they're not that Slaneshi. Slanesh is Harvesters, but I don't quite see any tentacles or anything like that on them just yet. Perhaps they're still young in their devotion. But anyway, so 2 very nimble forces. On my side, what have I brought? Well, I brought a bunch of these fell bats just because I wanted some stuff to... it's not a super serious build in that sense, but I wanted a lot of stuff to perhaps just commit down onto his archers or various other units, just to tie them down. Don't expect them to do too much, and just mostly be a nuisance and a bother. They're pretty cheap, not necessarily cost effective, but I figured I'd bring them anyways. So what else do I have? Well, up through the center, I have intermixed Nehakara warriors with Crypt Ghouls. So these are going to be anti-infantry damage dealers, both of them. The Crypt Ghouls are weak versus armor, so that's why I only brought 2 of them. They're still pretty cheap and do poison attacks, so I wanted them intermixed, but I didn't want to rely on that uniquely. So in the center, I have a little bit of a more high-tier unit. So the Tomb Guards here, pretty good higher-tier infantry. And then these Kefir Guard, which are basically the same as the Nehakara warriors, but just, the regiment around elite version. Or are they? Yeah, they're regiment renowned. Yeah, so they have regeneration on them, magical attack, pretty good stats on them as well. So just a nice little thing in the main line. And they're also going to be backed up by Archon the Black riding his mount here, as well as the Tomb Prince. So as long as the Tomb Prince is near Archon the Black, you'll have some synergy in terms of the Guardian ability, reducing the amount of damage he takes. So that's my center line, and I'm, at this moment, trying to dodge a Sorceress spell coming in at me, trying to see how good it's homing. Oh, lock is, and it looks like it poked through, and oh, it did take a little bit of chunk out of my health, so gotta be a little bit worried. And then on the flanks, as you already saw, I have some Hex Wraiths on both sides, and then I also have a single unit of Ushabti with Great Bows. There is the potential to bring a lot more of these, which, I think it would have been better, more cost effective, but I feel like they're a little bit cheesy, and I don't really like to spam these. But yeah, very, very powerful units. So they're going to be starting to take pot shots at his Sisters of the Thorn, because I'm mostly, an infantry-focused force, or build, I should say. I want to take these guys out. I'm not super worried about his main line of, spears and other units. I feel like I can surround them and grind them out over time. It's these units that I got to be worried about. So he's doing a big push. Doom Bolt trying to hit my Hex Wraiths. Doesn't do all too much damage. So I'm feeling okay, and I'm just kind of circling about with these Fell Bats, trying to threaten his Dark Shards, and it looks like it's forcing him to fall back a little bit. Yeah, doing a lot of damage, and take a look at this. This engagement that's coming in is going to be pretty indicative of some stuff you can do to counter these Sisters of Slaughter. I'm going to be coming in doing a lot of magical damage. Meanwhile, these do have very, they're not armored, but they make up for it with the dodge, which has a physical resistance, which is supposed to help them in most engagements. But when you come in with magical damage, this is going to do a ton of stuff. Not only is it cavalry force, but magical damage. Look at them launching them away. And I don't even have to stay engaged that long, but doing tons of damage. So that's how I'm looking to counter some of his units here. And then I just plunge in on him with the bats. Just try and tie this all down. And we're going to be coming at that lord on the manticore. Trying to do a fair amount of damage. And I'm doing everything I can to try and protect my rear lines. I'm going to charge in with both of my lords just because I feel like they can handle this. I mean, I'll just trying to save the rest of my forces. Trading decently where I can against these Sisters of Slaughter. Forcing the lord back. In the center, just soaking up some of his charges. I do threaten here with my Hex Rakes, having a little bit of a slowdown, pulling through my guys. And yeah, that forces his units back. So what's happening here is I'm doing a decent trade. But a little bit of the trouble that I have is his Dark Shards are going to start to do a fair amount of damage. My Bats do block some of it. So at this point, I try and commit with my Crypt Ghouls against his Sisters of Slaughter. They are doing flaming damage now and magical damage. Ooh, and looks like I get, we both charge each other off the charge. I think I got a little bit of a benefit there. So that's going to go in my way because both of these units are dealing magical damage versus each other. So it's kind of whoever gets that first charge should be doing well. So I did get that first charge. Indy recognized that. He's going to pull out of that immediately and swap out for Blackguard of Nagaron and Sisters of Slaughter, as well as it looks like, and I believe that's me. I'm not quite sure what this is going to be. Is it a Hex or a buff? But in any case, he's coming in with a lot of units. The Slaneshi force is coming in as well. So lots of craziness happening here, and I still have my most elite units held in the back. Same thing with the Ushabti firing away. But yeah, here we go, pulled through. And this is going to be a little bit tricky for me, because my units are somewhat weak. Ooh, that Doom Bolt doing a lot of damage. And take a look at this. Now that I'm engaged, and I'm in a static position, this is where he can start to do a lot of damage if he gets in a rear charge. Hex Rakes do pull out of the center, because I feel like I can trade decently with his units. And I'm going to punch through the gaps now that we have these positions engaged. And come on through. I'm going to pop some abilities with my Lord to try and help the resistance amongst my guys. And he's getting some of his own hexes off against me. Soul Blight to strip away some armor. But it looks like I've been able to force his units back. And in the center, I'm going to find an opportunity with my Hex Rates to punch through. Meanwhile, I Tomb Guard as well. So it looks like I'm going to be having a good trade. But he catches me right here when I have different charge orders, and look how quickly he's going to trade with these Hex Rates. Oh my god, are there horses breathing fire? Oh no, they're just throwing magic. That's really dope. I actually hadn't noticed that animation before. Oh my god, and that is going to be... Yep, that is a super hard counter against my guys. My god. Oh, the imbued flaming and magical damage in addition to that just brought it home. So he has now seen off my Hex Rates, which can be pretty bad for me. Oh, I guess both of them can do this. Oh my god, this is so cool. I can't believe I didn't notice this before. Yeah, really scary stuff. But I'm still holding out somewhat. I have quite the numbers still in my advantage, but this center, 2 units held down with the Dragon Prince and my Lord. Hoping that the flanks I'll be able to turn the tide. It's somewhat working, and that I've been able to catch his archers. And this is going to be a raised unit of skeleton warriors. They change up a little bit of Archon. What of his abilities? Where is it here? Tomb Blade of Archon here allows you to start spawning skeleton warriors. I didn't quite look at the stats on this because this is a 2-minute cooldown, and this is my first resurrect for the skeletons. I should have popped them first thing in the battle. That way I would have had them a bit more use, but now I only get really 1 out of that spell before the battle ends, so I could have benefited from that a lot more. So a little bit of underutilization there. But now I come in with Archon, and he's going to be going right after the Sorceress with the Manticore. She's a bit tied down with my Ushabti with the Great Bows. It'll be slowing her down. Looks like she's trying to pull out of this, but she is going to take a lot of damage in the process. Looks like I was caught up as well, and he's going to be able to take off. So I was hoping to take him out. I still have some ammo, so I can keep plonking away at that Sorceress. But things are going decently. I don't know. It's teetering on both sides. And he's starting to get weighted down, but he still has some Blackguard of Nagaron, which are going to be hard to deal with. And his center, the Sisters of Thorn, just holding out amazingly. Well, I guess at the same time, they don't really have too much that they're fighting besides a late game Ushabti, but they're fighting a single prince the whole time, so yeah, not too much damage being done to them. Trying to route them with some terror debuffs and all kinds of stuff, but they're holding strong with the spear infantry here. It's helping out a lot. On this flank, I have caught out the enemy, doing okay. Soulblight trying to help out, but on most sides, it looks like I'm finally being ground out. And with his sorceress still alive, it's going to be to his benefit. So I'm slowly petering out, as you've seen. My one main hope is to try and maybe Lord Snipe here. So Indy knows that immediately once I disengage, he pulls out of that fight. And there goes Archon disintegrating into the desert, and with that, the rest of my forces crumbling. So nice build on Indy Pride's part. As you see, the Sisters of the Thorn being very powerful, but I think the main wins in this one were his Doomfire Warlocks. The amount of magical damage and, you know, imbuing with the fire damage that he was able to do with his Sorceress, they were just going to work on my units. I could have benefited maybe from a little bit more ranged forces to plonk away at his guys, but anything, you know, any larger investment in constructs, Indy had that definitely covered with his armor-piercing Dark Shards, with his Blackguard of Nagarond, and yeah, just an overall very solid build. So, like I keep saying, you're going to be seeing the new forces for the Dark Elves being very, very good in most matchups, and in this case, you're seeing it demonstrated. And of course, Indy's a good player as well, so that definitely feeds into it. So let's end the replay and take a look at the stats here. So across the board on my guys, pretty pitiful. A lot of the bats were pretty much wasted. Could have thought better on how to expend that investment. Hex Wraiths as well didn't do that much for their investment. They were pretty good, at least on the initial charge, against the Sisters of Slaughter, but were hard shut down by these Doomfire Warlocks. Had I been able to maybe get a better engagement against them, and these guys had been able to do you know, with their magical damage, I think they're the perfect counter to the Sisters of Slaughter if you can get them into those types of engagements. Just wasn't really able to. Maybe a vampire build would have been a little bit better here in the sense that you could have. I think having a couple banshees in here, teaming them up against Sisters of Slaughter would have done pretty well. Having some of the Tomb Guard, stuff like that. I think I would have liked to have a little bit more powerful infantry bodies. Nehakar warriors here, a little bit too flimsy to go up against the Dark Elves. And I mean, you saw that when they tried to take on the Blackguard. And yeah. So it was a very, very fun battle. Indy Pride handling this very well. And again, you'll be seeing these Sisters of Slaughter as a mainstay. Same thing with the Doomfire Warlocks. Expect to see that a lot in the Dark Elf builds. It all synergizes as well. Ushabti were definitely a good pick. Like I said, could have benefited from maybe another one as well. And I could have sat back and just, you know, sniped at his guys all day. And I did kind of do something similar in another build with Indy where I was being a cheeky Empire player with a bunch of Pistoliers and Grenadiers, etc. And I felt sorry for him. So I didn't want to kite him too much in this battle. I went for a bit more direct approach. But yeah, that's it. Stay tuned for more and definitely check out Indy Pride's channel where you can see a lot more gameplay. That's it. See you in the next one. Peace out.